Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 24 of Logicast, the AWS News podcast brought to you by Logicata. I'm Carl Robinson, CEO and co-founder of Logicata, and I'm joined today, as always, by a somewhat cooler principal cloud engineer, John Goodall. I had to think then about your job title, keep changing it, but I think I did actually get it right.
Yes, you did.
How are you doing today, John?
I'm surprised you didn't introduce me as former puddle because it was warm last week. It was warm to the point where, I don't do heat very well because, I'm from the south and I'm English and I'm pale. Therefore, the melting point of me is about 24 degrees. The result of which was I somewhat impulse bought another fan.
Ooh.
Fun, right?
Health and safety risk there on that fan, John. There's no cage around it.
No, it's a camping thing. So
hang on. So they're soft.
So they're not soft, but they do pop off and things. But you can't put that around the children and make sure that the children know not to touch it. Oh, it'll be all right. Spinning. Touch it. No, they can't touch it.
Well, that's it. They'll learn after the first
Very
time.
quickly.
So yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about how John cools himself, although, it has been a topic of discussion recently. We are here to talk about AWS news, and we're delighted to be joined today all the way from Turkey by our guest, Görkem Kestana. How are you doing today, Görkem?
I'm doing really great, and really happy you having me on this podcast series. I'm actually really good today, and greetings from Istanbul, Turkey. So we will be talking about several topics covered about some recent technologies in Amazon Web Services. So
So tell us a bit about what you do over there in Istanbul, Turkey, Görkem. What do you do for a living? What do you do in the AWS community?
Well, actually, I live in Istanbul, so actually I'm giving lectures, also developing software, at the same time. And but as I was a former Amazon community builder, but for this year I couldn't renew. And I was a community builder on machine learning series. So that's my story.
Is that your specialty, machine learning? Do you do a lot of that, or is that just where you ended up in the program?
Well, actually, I made a master degree with thesis, and when I was dealing with my thesis, I was using those machine learning topics covered. And actually, I really like researching about machine learning technology, deep learning technologies, like also combining them with cryptologic algorithms. And also, these years, I'm researching some new technologies about cloud technologies, because it's really a trend new topic.
Well, I think we've got a little bit of AI in some of today, at least one of today's articles. Perhaps not so much on the deep learning, but as regular listeners to the podcast will know, once a week I curate a list of AWS news, which I share via my weekly AWS News Roundup newsletter, and then John picks a selection of the articles, shares them with our guest for us to discuss on the podcast. So we did, of course, share some articles with Görkem before the weekend, and the first of those is an article on the AWS News blog, all about how you can run isolated sandboxes with full lifecycle control with the introduction of AWS Lambda Micro VMs. So, John, Micro VMs, lots of different VMs within AWS. What's so new about Micro VMs, or Lambda Micro VMs, I guess?
I mean, they're completely new. So that's what's new about them, is they didn't exist before this announcement, and now they do. So I guess that's what's new about them. Sort of. So, and I say sort of because I'm drawing some parallels here that may or not be true, but I think I'm right. So you've got, before Micro VMs, there was a handful of different ways you could run compute, right? You could have a server, but they take minutes to start, which is apparently very slow. You could have a container, and they run very quickly, but they have shared kernels and things like that. So and you have to worry about things like container escape, and you still got servers to run them on, or Fargate, and then that's the thing. And they do a very specific job, right? A container is running a program or a couple of them, but it's not doing anything particularly clever. It's just running a couple of processes, tops, right? And then you've got Lambdas, beneath that, which is just function as a service. You give it an input, you get an output, input, output, easy peasy, right? So you've got lambdas, containers, servers being the more general purpose. You didn't really have a way of running something on a sort of semi-permanent basis that was only very lightweight, that started very quickly and gave you persistent disk, right? Because servers gave you persistent disk and they didn't share kernels and all this jazz, but they took a little while to start comparatively, right? And whenever anyone says, but as VMs take minutes to start, so that's a very long time. Maybe I'm just being old. I remember having to start, cold boot from bare metal and that taking actual like half an hour sometimes to get these things going and racking and stacking. And maybe I'm just still enamored with the idea of I can go from nothing to several servers in 10 minutes. So I don't know, maybe I'm just enamored with that still. And then on the other end, things like Lambda start very quickly, but they are highly specific to what they're doing. What a micro VM is doing is it's basically giving you, so far as I can work out, a container that persists its state, stores its disk, because you could always start a container and kind of exec into it, right? You could shell into it and then do things in it. But if you needed to save anything in there, it wouldn't persist. As soon as you left the session, it was gone. You couldn't save anything unless you were kind of mounting out to some sort of external disk. And people did that, sure, and it was clunky, but it worked. What micro VM are doing is it's giving you that just sort of out of the box. And the reason I say that this is new-ish is, so far as I can work out, this is how Cloud Shell works. And that's been a thing for ages now, right? Cloud Shell is one of these semi-permanent, it exists until AWS tear it down. And if you've not touched it for, I think, 90 days, it cleans itself up, or 180 days, it cleans itself up. But stuff that you save in your Cloud Shell session stays there. So far as I can work out, what they've done is they've just given you access to the guts of how Cloud Shell's working, given it a new fancy name, and said, cool, you can go do what you like with that now. Because if you think about it, it's running on top of a container image, because you have to give it a container image to start with, and then it's doing storage. So, okay, I mean, I like this. I see the need for it, because if you want something to come up very, very quickly just to run some commands or whatever, then you can do that, I guess. I'm not sure who asked for this, because it wasn't something I ever thought was necessary, but then maybe I'm not the use case. I don't know. But yeah, as I say, so far as I can work out, this is basically the guts of how Cloud Shell works, and you can now do what you like with it, I think.
It's getting very confusing, I have to say, because we've had big servers for serverless. Now this is little servers for serverless.
Yeah, because we had serverless, which is proper serverless, and then you had Lambda heavy, as Brian likes to call it, which I think is just the best term ever, which is you have the servers and you control the life cycle of them. And now it's running within Lambda, but it's a little server.
Well, actually, like, it's a kind of new serverless technology, like servers designated to run code in fully isolated environments. I'm talking about AWS Lambda Micro VMs. I mean, it's work on virtual machine environments, as I know.
Yeah. It's I don't get it. I don't get lots of these things, if I'm honest, but I don't get it. I think it's cool, but I don't get it.
Apologies for that. Phone call coming through from the wife, who's the only person that breaks through all of my do not disturb settings on the,
That's his right
on the iPhone.
You should have answered the call. Carl, you should have answered the call.
No, I've switched the phone off. Yeah. She'll have to wait. This is the podcast. We're recording a podcast here, so I apologize to the listeners for that intrusion. I thought I'd switched off everything I needed to switch off. So, yeah. The conclusion is we're confused about the small servers for serverless as to why it might be required. Well, there we go. It does exist if you need it. Some people need it.
I'm sure if you need it, you need it, right? Yeah. They list a load of use cases why you might want this, right? Because it's a dedicated exec environment to safely run code that you didn't write. Cool, right? So what's that? It's coding assistants, interactive environments, data analytics platforms, vuln scanners, game servers, all that kind of thing. So I'm sure that if you're running these sorts of things, that makes sense for you to do this. I'm sure you know about it.
I mean, actually, this technology, while you're working with AI-driven workflows. This might be provide a secure execution environment, because I mean you are using fully isolated different virtual machines and doing your work, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of the one that I could think of. I don't know. I think my AI is good enough that I just trust it intuitively. No, I don't. I'm kidding.
Okay.
But yeah, beyond that, this confuses me a bit.
Well, let's use that confusion as a nice segue into our second article for this week, which hopefully will be a little bit less confusing for you, because I know that we've been working with this quite a bit ourselves recently. But this is an article on devops.com about why every DevOps engineer is suddenly learning MCP, or Model Context Protocol. So, John, you've been suddenly learning MCP. Görkem, have you been suddenly learning MCP as well?
Actually, I've heard about that technology, but haven't started to learn that technology. But before we'll be talking about MCP technology, we should talk about what is DevOps actually, because some of the people have no idea about DevOps and what's DevOps engineer. So actually, a DevOps engineer is an IT professional who connects the bridge the gap between software development process and the IT operations. So their goal is to make software delivery faster. I mean, the DevOps engineer more reliable and more adapted, and like between IT department and software department, they connect both of them. So yeah, that's the role of the DevOps. So we can talk about MCP technology right now.
Yeah. So in terms of that, then the tagline on this article is: if you spoke to if you spoke to a DevOps engineer about MCP a year ago, you'd get a blank stare. That was me. It was me. It was like, it's new and scary. I don't like it, which is ironic given that I work in tech and everything is new and scary. But a year later, and I'm all over it. So the article does kind of do a decent job of this. It's funny because MCP was a thing and then it wasn't a thing, or there was some noise about it not being a thing, and now it's a thing again. It was like, it's MCP, Model Context Protocol, for the uninitiated, and I'm sure I've explained this before, but this might be a first ever podcast episode. So hi, thanks for joining us. For the uninitiated, it's a way of telling agents specifically how to talk to other things, normally other tools, because if it's an agent talking to another agent, that's A2A, which is agent to agent communication, which is slightly different to MCP, but it's in the same kind of ballpark. It's the same sort of flavor of things. And there's more MCPs out there now, as in MCP servers that people have written for you, than you can shake an enormous great stick at very hard. If you think about it, AWS had dozens and dozens and dozens, to the point where they've now rolled them back again, rationalized them into a handful rather than thousands of them, because that was a thing for a while. There's MCPs for coding assistants to talk to your God, what's the word I'm looking for? To talk to your code quality tools, to talk to your security tools, to talk to the pricing systems that you might want to use, to talk to basically anything, right? Atlassian has them. Jira has them as part of Atlassian, but there's, I think, a specific one. Almost every wiki in creation has them. Most tools have them these days, right? Because it's, I think, become the standard for agents to talk to stuff, or to know how to talk to stuff, because it uses the MCP to work out what APIs to call effectively. And there was a little moment, probably 6 months ago, where MCPs had started to be kind of a thing, and then everyone would just make your APIs more consumable by agents so that they can just query the API, get the help doc, and do it that way. And people started to do that, and then MCPs just kind of really bedded in. So that's kind of what they are, and that's why most folks are starting to understand what they are now. In terms of most people, and I'm talking from kind of my learned experience, we're still not making our own MCPs. We're running things that other people have made. Now, I know some people that are making them and they're kind of doing things. It's not the transformative thing that I think this article is trying to make it. It might be eventually, and learning how to roll your own MCP is probably going to be useful. But for the minute, it's more about just understanding what they are, how you can work with the pre-rolled ones, and kind of where they're useful. So you're not constantly copying and pasting information into your chat windows. The agent can go and work it out for you.
So actually, not only just with APIs, but also it's a protocol, MCP protocol, and open standards designed to connect AI system with external tools, APIs, also data sources as well, and enterprise applications. Those are really important ones. And its goal actually like eliminate the need to build custom integrations for every individual tools. But actually, if we talk about like security considerations of those MCP technologies, like if AI systems are granted access to Kubernetes clusters, cloud environments, and deployment system, organizations must implement those strong authentication and authorization, like auditing ones, and access control mechanism to ensure safe operations. We can say it like that.
Are we ready yet for AI agents to be taking actions in our environments?
Completely unimpeded? No, I don't think we're there yet in terms of trust, because it's a trust thing. But I think we're getting there.
You know what? Agent-driven operations are rising. Because back in the days, AI system just they can tell us some advisements like writing code snippets, but nowadays in this technology they can control the systems like APIs, stuff like that. So it's developing pretty much comparing with the past.
Yeah, I don't trust developers either, and my entire career has been built on not trusting developers, and I'm yet to be wrong. So
that's why they have development environments.
Exactly. This is why non-production exists.
You know what? If John doesn't trust the developers, nobody gonna trust the developers, because John is our man. We trust John.
In John we trust.
Yeah.
Should put that on some currency. Should put that on some currency with my face on it.
We can start with a T-shirt, but
no, we now need Logi dollars. We need that.
Logi dollars,
yeah, Logi tokens. Yeah. Well, there we go. That's our view on MCP and agents controlling systems. So let's move along to the third article for this week. This is a completely different topic. This is an article on the AWS Training and Certification blog about a new way to keep your AWS certification current. So I am AWS certified. John is AWS certified. Görkem, I don't know if have you ever taken any AWS certifications?
Actually, I was hanging out with the AWS Skill Builder. And I was taking education about databases and SQL and cloud services.
Well, there we go. Lots of content on Skill Builder. But traditionally, to get yourself a certification, you've had to take an exam. And that would have required you to either go to an exam center where exams are moderated under exam conditions. You are watched and you're not allowed to take anything in with you, no phones, no notepads, and so on and so forth. Alternatively, during COVID, they allowed you to start taking them at home, but those were remote. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not moderated. Proctored, that's the one. It sounds much more surgical. So they were remote proctored or online proctored exams.
You're thinking that because of proctologists.
Exactly, yes. So let's not go there. That's a totally different conversation.
That's a very different podcast.
But yes, remote proctoring became a thing during COVID. But if you have anything in your room where you wish to take the exam, then you'll probably spend more time clearing it out than you will actually taking the exam, because again, no clocks on the walls, no papers on the desk and everything else. But I guess it's good because to get those certifications, you had to go through real exam conditions to prove that you have the knowledge. Well, now there's a new way that you can renew your certifications without taking an exam. So John, what are your thoughts on this new method of renewing your AWS certification.
Yeah, so to be clear, it's for renewals only. If you want to get the cert in the first place, you do still have to go and do an exam. Okay, there's no way around that. There's no two ways around that. This is for renewals only. And this isn't brand new as such, because the idea of doing something that let you renew your certs that wasn't go and do an exam has been around for a little while now, because was it Cloud Quest, I think, I let you renew your cloud practitioner certificate. And I don't know how long that lasted for, but there's been a way of doing that one for a little while. So this, I view this as an extension of that, but just a little bit more kind of evolved and advanced, a little bit more grown up, because it's not a gamified learning path through some god awful interface. It's I don't really know what it is. It's things like there'll be quizzes, there'll be questions, there'll be digital courses, hands-on labs, relevant and evolving topics, because they refresh the exams every so often to keep things current. So they're going to do the same with this. Generally, I like this, okay, because I recently renewed my DevOps Pro exam, and honestly, I had a bit of a palaver doing it because I couldn't find a test set. I'd been procrastinating renewing it because I was pretending that it didn't exist and that I didn't want to do it because I didn't have to do it, and the business didn't need me to do it. But I thought, I'll do it because that way I get to continue being 6 times certified without kind of losing several of them because of just how they stack.
Because of that.
It was just it was just I've got a lot on and I couldn't be bothered, but I went and I YOLO'd it and I passed, and that was great. But I had a bit of a palaver because I couldn't find a test center that was anywhere near kind of where I wanted to do it, right? Because the one that I normally do them in doesn't seem to be offering them anymore. Still on the system, but you just can't find a slot. And then I booked another one, and then they cancelled that for me. I booked it on a bank holiday thinking, oh, sweet, I'm not doing anything, I'll do it then. And then they cancelled it for me. And then I had to book a different test centre in a different city about 2 weeks before my exam this was literally only last weekend, about 2 weeks before my exam would have expired. And it was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday in the blazing heat before it all got really ridiculously hot. Breathe in. And as a result of that, this is because I'm ranting. It's because I'm ranting. I can't breathe because I'm ranting. And they had issues checking people in, and I didn't get started on time because some other moderation was going on for like an accountancy exam or something. Because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go and do an AWS exam, there's always dozens of teenagers doing accounting exams. I think you couldn't come up with anything more intelligent to do, anything a bit more interesting. No, you're going to go and do ACCA. Okay, losers. Whatever. So it was a complete faff. It was a complete pain, and I couldn't reschedule from in person to online remote without cancelling and then rebooking, and then I'd lose the 50% off voucher that I'd used, and it was just it was just a whole big thing. This is better because I struggle with being able to do remote exams because of exactly that, right? I've got a big office and I've got lots of stuff in it. Friend of podcast and friend of the user group, Zarina Barnsby, has a good trick of put white sheets up in front so that they're physically, I like that as an idea. I'm going to have to do that. But I've got kids, I've got people at home. If they hear anyone in the background talking, they'll fail you. If you mumble, they'll fail you. If you're in a test center, you can get up and go to the loo because it's a controlled environment. You can't do that at home. You have to sit there. Not that I've ever needed to, but the idea of, I don't know, maybe a man of your age, Carl, might need it more than I, but the idea of not being able to do it annoys me, that kind of thing. So anything for me that means you don't have to go through all of that faff to renew an exam that you've already taken, the topics, and it's not, I test quite well. I've got a bit of a trick memory and I test quite well. So I hadn't really done a huge amount of work for it, but I do this every day and I passed. Great. Wonderful. But not everybody tests as well as I do. And not everybody has the time or the effort or the inclination to go and do it. And more to the point, it's, can you regurgitate facts on demand? Cool. I can do that. I'm okay at doing that. Not everybody can. That doesn't mean they can't do the job. So this is a much more aligned to reality way of doing things, I find. The fact that it's tied up behind a paid-for skill builders plan, I guess, subscription, that's the word I'm looking for, bothers me. But then you have to pay for the exams. So, and a pro exam is quite expensive. It's $360 plus VAT. So that's quite expensive. So the fact that you have to pay $20 a month or whatever for this is not too bad. But it does only allow you to renew for a year. So I don't know, double-edged. I like it, generally. I like it, but it's not perfect.
Well, actually, while you are trying to getting some new skills on, for example, software or about database systems. Like doing some laboratory activities is really important because it makes easier to make you learn. So last but not least, I mean, in a nutshell, like AWS, like beginning to transition, make those transition from exam-based certification recertification model to a continuous learning model. Like as we talk about certification holders, they will be able to maintain certain AWS certifications by completing AWS Skills Builder training and laboratory activities, as I mentioned, reducing or eliminating the need to retaking the certification exam, as John said.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it, really. I don't particularly like the exams, but it is only once every 3 years.
Trust me, nobody likes exams, Carl.
I quite like them. To be honest, I quite like them. But then, like
Really?
I said, I've got a trick memory and I test well, so I can rock. And then, I don't pay for my own exams for either employment or voucher-based reasons. I very rarely pay for an exam, so I test well and I don't struggle with multiple choice exams, and then I don't have to think about it for 3 years, right? My DevOps is now renewed, and as a result of that, it's renewed my Dev and my SysOps, which you can't actually earn anymore, but it's renewed that until 2029. And it's renewed my Cloud Practitioner as well. So I don't have to think about those for another 3 years. And I've got all of next year off before I have to renew my SA Pro in 2028. So I'm good.
Yeah, I think mine is, when is mine? So yeah, mine will be 2028 as well. So maybe in 2028, I'll think about doing this.
While you're dealing with multiple choices questions, some options are really similar with each other. So that might be really hard to find the correct answer.
This is the point around people that test well versus don't.
Yeah.
It's one of those. If you're good at taking tests, is a skill in and of itself, and it only kind of comes with practice. I've done a lot of exams in my life, and I've failed a lot of them because I was 17 and at college had discovered, things that weren't education when I was 17 and 18. I'm going to leave that point there, but most of them involved the pub. So yeah, if you're good at taking tests, then this is maybe less useful to you. But if you don't have the time or the availability, like I possibly would have done this time around because I struggled to find a slot to do it. And I could probably have taken a day of work's time to go and smash through the renewal course and get it done for a year and then kick that can down the road a bit. So had this been available, I might have considered doing it.
Well, it is available now, and you can consider it next time around.
Yeah, in 3 years.
Yeah.
In 3 years, yeah.
I think it's good because potentially.
We can browbeat everyone at work to renew their exams now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's good because you are having that kind of forced refresher in a way, but you're getting some value out of doing so. So I'd be interested to see how this is adopted by the AWS certified community, but also how it develops because it's not available for all certifications yet. It's available for the core ones, so solutions architect, associate, and professional, developer, associate, Cloud Ops Engineer, and DevOps Professional. I think those are the only ones available right now, but it does say that there are more coming later in the year. But yes, the core ones, certainly the ones that I have, are available right now. So 2028, I'll take a look. On that note, let's move along to our next article for this week. This is an article all about why Amazon Quick could be more strategic than recognized. So Amazon Quick, of course, kind of born out of QuickSight, but is really now it's a suite of products, but the flagship product within that is the Amazon Quick desktop client. Which we have adopted in Logicata and is very rapidly becoming my kind of main place of work in place of Slack and Outlook and everywhere else. And John, I know you're using it quite heavily as well. Thoughts on this particular article? Can Amazon turn this into the sort of desktop app that they've never quite managed to break into before, into the desktop space?
I don't know, because that's a really big question, and I'm not an economist or a futurist or an analyst. I just know my usage of it, right? And how sucky it was to get it up and going. So again, for the uninitiated, Quick, as Carl says, is born out of QuickSight, and there's some rough edges there as a result. So if you want the free plan, you actually can't have the desktop, believe it or not. You get the desktop for the first 30 days as a here's kind of a preview, but then you have to pay after a month, which is very annoying, but it is what it is. And then you can have the plus plan, which is I think $20 a month, and then you can pay for it. And then there's the team plan, which I think it's the same thing. And then from there you go from $20 a month to $20 a month plus a $200 a month infrastructure fee if you want to bill it through the AWS console. And then there's the enterprise, which is the famous contact sales button, because then they'll write custom plans for you, because my usage is going to be so enormous that you can't possibly cope with me. Cool, we can just find our checkbook here and find lots of money for you to spend, sir. However, getting this up and running genuinely took hair off my head, years off my life, and put greys in my beard. It was so bad made me want to stick spoons in my eyes. It was horrible. And it was so bad that even Corey Quinn has commented and saying this is terrible, right? In order to get the desktop environment to work for you through the console and not spew away a spurious license on an admin user, you have to have IAM-IDC in US East 1. You have to set up Quick in US East 1. You have to set up a third party, I'm going to say it again, third-party token authorizer. And I believe the only 4 that are supported as of right now are Microsoft, Entra, Okta, and a couple of others whose names escape me. But there's only 4 that are set up right now. You can't use anything else, including ones that you can use for things like IDC in the first place. But no, you've got to use these ones. And you've got to set that up to generate tokens and send them back to IDC. You then got to log in with IDC. You've got to enable the desktop user for every user. You've got to add it to your own profile. And then you've got to log in to the desktop twice to use it. Twice, right? You click the login button in the desktop, and then it logs you into the Quick account in the browser. And then it gives you the 2-factor prompt from your, it gives you the login and the 2-factor prompt from your third-party token issuer, and then it logs you in. And you can only do it that way if you're using IDC in US East 1. If you're not using IDC in US East 1, you have to use federated IAM. So we now have to have IAM users, which is ridiculous. And to enforce MFA, we have to do SCPs to enforce MFA on IAM users. And then we still have the MFA nonsense from Microsoft as well, because we have to use Entra, because that's what we've got access to, because I'm not signing up for Okta or whatever, just for the sake of using this. So basically, we have to pay $300 a month just for us two, plus the infrastructure fee, or $240 a month for us two. Was it 200? Is it 200 or is it 250? 250. So we have to pay an obscene amount of money to cause me stress to get it going. But now that it is going, it's fantastic. It's the best tool I've used for doing non-code work for a very, very long time, because you were doing this and I was doing this. We were using Kiro to do all these sorts of things, to make, customer proposals and pitches and do analytics work and do all these sorts of other things that aren't code generation. That it's good at doing, but it's not strictly designed for, and it's not the nicest thing to do it with. Quick is much better because it's a much friendlier interface once you've set it up. Here endeth the rant. In terms of whether this becomes something that Amazon can really make a thing, they have to fix that. Right. The tool is incredibly powerful, but they have to fix the sign up and the login flow for enterprise users. You just have to.
Well, I don't think it's just that, is it? I think it's also some, a lot of the value that you can get from connectors and MCPs and that kind of thing. Some of that can be managed centrally right now. Some of it can't. So, your average user is going to struggle to configure MCP on their desktop, for example, if you need to use an MCP server to connect to your CRM system, for example. There is value in doing that, but
writing the connector to talk to Jira was horrible. I've had to write an app in Jira land, like an OAuth app, and share that as a dev app, because that's the only way of doing it that isn't MCP, and the Jira MCP is also horrible.
So I think those things do need to be simplified. I mean, we're an SME, so or SMB, whatever you want to call it. Perhaps large enterprise organizations have big teams of people to do all of this integration work. But I think it definitely needs to be simplified. It is quite painful. What are your thoughts on it, Gökhan?
So I mean, as for talking about Amazon Quick, in my opinion, like Amazon's objective is not simply to create another chatbot, with AI. Instead of that, the broader vision of Amazon while developing that Quick technology, it may be to like connecting enterprises data sources, understand employee workflows and pretty important business processes, and like automating routine works, and creating a unidentified AI layer across enterprise applications. We can say, like, although Amazon Quick currently appears to be an AI assistant, AWS may ultimately be positioning it as a central workplace platform and enterprise operating layer that manages interactions across an organization's applications and data sources, as mentioned. For this reason, actually, in its long-term strategic importance could be far greater than most observers currently recognize, as we say.
Well, that will remain to be seen. I think you're potentially right, but I think there's a long way to go yet. I've attended a couple of webinars about it. People are already asking, why isn't the mobile app joined up with the desktop app? One of the sort of big things to allay privacy concerns is this all runs on your desktop, but actually, in order to make it you really efficient, then really you want access to everything that you've created wherever you are. That's what people expect these days. And I think if you've gone through all of the pain that John's been through to set it all up in your own AWS account, so it's ring fenced in that way, why can't we see our chat history or some of our automations that we've created on the desktop app in the mobile app, or indeed in the browser? So a lot of what you create only exists in the desktop app, and therefore it's not really available to you wherever you are or to other users in the organization. Some of it can be published back through Quick, so skills you've created, etc., can be published and made available to other users. But the mobile app is effectively just like any other chatbot. It doesn't know about anything else you've done yet. But this is early days. So I'd hope that we will see it developing in that way, so that any work that we're doing with Quick we can do anywhere, not just on our desktop machine. Have you tried it, Gökhan? Have you done a free trial with it, or
with Amazon Quick? So I'll try to play with it.
It's very good. It is very good, and you quickly become dependent on it. I don't know if that's
maybe John make an application with using it.
Yeah. I've done all sorts with it.
Well, you are now the accidental developer, as we've discovered.
Well, that was Kiro.
Potato.
But yes, I've been automating lots of my own processes with Quick, so it's really good.
So on that basis, I'm all for it, right? On that basis, what I've done is I've front-loaded my stress, because now you don't cause me stress, or as much.
Well, but that's the thing. The key thing with the adoption of these tools is it requires a mindset shift from the individual. It's one thing to equip employees with these tools, but unless their mindset changes, that instead of asking a colleague or asking your manager, how do I do this, or is it possible to do that, you have to start asking these tools, because very quickly you realize that, those things that I never thought I could do myself, I can now do myself with these tools. Gökhan, you mentioned, the connection into the enterprise data sources and everything else. Once it's got access to all of your ticketing systems, project management systems, CRM, and everything else, it can start to really pull together all of the sort of context about the particular queries that you're asking it. If you're asking it about a client, it's got access to everything about that client within your, within your different enterprise data sources. So it becomes, becomes a very powerful tool.
Actually, on enterprises, dealing with CRM systems and SAP systems are really crucial, managing them.
Absolutely, yeah. But of course, it is up against Copilot, which everyone just has if they're using Microsoft 365, which or it's up against Gemini, which everyone just has if you're using Google Workspaces. So everyone doesn't just have Quick. So having said that, Amazon has got a very large enterprise footprint in terms of their customer base. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And in fact, I'm using all of those tools that I just mentioned. I've got Copilot as well. I've got some old chats in there that have got the context that I just pop back in there and continue those conversations. Gemini just pops up in every Google search result, and you end up having chats with that.
I think your point around the mindset shift is possibly why it's had such good inroads. I mean, all of these tools in the developer community before kind of general knowledge work communities, because developers are very used to the idea of, I don't have a thing, the thing doesn't exist, I'll go make it. That's very much a developer's mindset, as opposed to I will go and ask for help, is I will just do the thing. So that's possibly why these tools have had such great inroads into the dev side of things. And you can absolutely tell that these were built by engineers for engineers to start with. I mean, case in point was I heard a really amusing story a little while ago, which is not that long ago, about the release of ChatGPT. Because ChatGPT, they wanted to release with the chat interface and GPT-4 at the same time, right? But they didn't get GPT-4 done in time, so they released the chat interface with 3.5, and they genuinely apparently thought they'd only get something like 100,000 users or something like that, because what's the difference in their mind between just using the API, which was already available, you could go and do that, versus a chat interface that's kind of saved your chats for you? Because that's all you could do to start with. There was none of this agent call outs and Googling and things. It was literally just API call and response. And they genuinely apparently thought, oh, that won't really be that popular, just having a chat interface onto an API, will it? Womp. So apparently they got that one a bit wrong. But yeah.
Yeah, well, developers and engineers forget that the average user does not have a clue what to do with a command prompt. When you get the little flashing cursor, what do I do now? I don't know what all these commands are. It's
also prompt engineering.
What if I break it?
Yeah, also prompt engineering is another notion. While developing coding and making applications related with AI, you might be able to use also API keys. For example, OpenAI API keys to connect your application with ChatGPT's engine, behind that.
Yeah, if you haven't got an API key, just ask your chat interface for one, and they'll probably find it.
Yes, I know. I made that joke quite a lot last week. I know. That's the standard thing. Is if you can't afford a Google Maps key, just ask Copilot. It's got one.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, let's move along to our final article for this week. This is an article on Tech Times, all about how the EU is set to brand AWS and Azure as cloud gatekeepers, forcing egress fee overhauls. So we've spoken quite a bit about egress fees and the unfairness of them, and we've seen quite a lot of reform in this area recently anyway, with both, I think Microsoft came out first, was it, and then AWS and Google, they all came out last year.
They all did eventually. I forget what order.
There's two most important gatekeepers. One of it is Microsoft Azure, and another one is AWS services. Yeah.
So what is the European Commission going to do about it then? Because I thought it was already done, to be fair.
Nothing. They're going to stand around and pontificate a lot like Eurocrats love to do, and then achieve absolutely nothing. What they're actually claiming that they're going to do. So, right, bit of context. Gatekeepers under EU law already exist under the DMA, which is the Digital Markets Act from 2022, I think, a little while ago now. And the idea is you have to do three things in order to qualify as a gatekeeper. And being a gatekeeper is a bad thing generally, and that's kind of why they're using this term. Right. So the three things are, and it's in this list somewhere. See if I can find.
Yes, it's a significant impact on the EU's internal market, operating a core platform service that functions as an important gateway for business users to reach end users, and you must hold an entrenched and durable position in the market.
So yeah, I would say that all three of the hyperscalers qualify as that, right? There's already 7 DMA gatekeepers, but it's not for cloud. So there's Alphabet, who own Google, Amazon, Apple, Booking.com, which is a fun one.
Really? Does it count? Booking.com?
Yeah, ByteDance, Meta, who own Facebook, and Microsoft. But these are covering their consumer-facing services, app stores, search engine, messaging platforms, and operating systems. So I guess Booking.com maybe because it's such this big entrenched position in, I want to book, I'm a big user of Booking.com because I get my 10% off just everywhere. And I book enough hotels for either work things, which then, thank you very much for letting me expense those, or karate tournaments and what have you, where I go and I travel and I go and sort of see these sorts of things. And I book all my hotels through there because it's just the easiest thing to do, really. I don't have to worry about going and finding other people. I just kind of use that platform. So that kind of makes sense. But as I say, those are not necessarily for infrastructure. Infrastructure up until right now has remained untouched. And what I find interesting is it only appears to be AWS and Azure that they're looking at, not GCP. And I guess because it's not a big enough market share, I don't know. You're not wrong though, because what Amazon have kind of said is, well, we already do allow people to take all of their data away from us for free if you tell us you're leaving the platform. So why is this a thing, right? But the argument is, every cloud platform charges you an egress fee, and this is intentional, right? Because they let you bring your data in for free, but they charge between 8 and 9 cents a gigabyte, depending on the provider and kind of where it's going and where it's coming from. Because if it's going out from CloudFront, it's slightly cheaper, but you have to pay for it to get into CloudFront. So it's still, between 8 and 9 cents a gigabyte, you have to pay for your data to leave that cloud platform. I think basically as a result of that, businesses cannot reasonably bypass them to reach their own customers, and therefore they satisfy the gatekeeper test, which basically means that they're going to be forced to not charge egress fees anymore. I think is
Actually,
the idea, but
yeah. Actually, as for talking about the egress fees, like egress fees actually, which are charges imposed when customers move data out of a cloud platform. We can say like uploading data to a cloud provider is usually free. We can say that, but transferring data from AWS or Azure to another cloud provider or to an organization's own infrastructure often incurs fees. So actually, they are talking about those egress fees.
Yeah, which I've just covered. And the other point that they're kind of making is the other point. It's not just the egress fees. And the article calls this out as well, right? In terms of if you wanted to move from using AWS to Hetzner, OVH Cloud, whoever, it's not just the egress that's going to sting you. It's the fact that you're going to potentially have to rewrite large bits of your application if you're using their APIs. And this is the other thing, is it's trying to mandate interoperability, the standardization of APIs. And what that basically means is this is dead in the water as far as I can work out, because there's no way in hell that AWS, Microsoft, Google, Ali freaking Barber are going to rewrite their platforms to have open standard interoperability so that the bureaucrats can be happy with themselves. They're just not going to do it. So I don't really see where this is going, if I'm honest. I don't think it's a bad thing to be having these conversations, because sure, they're gatekeepers. Under this kind of definition, they're gatekeepers. But I don't get the logic. I mean, I don't see it ever happening. I don't see they will designate them as gatekeepers and they will fine them, and they'll just either continue to pay the fine as a cost of doing business, or they'll pull from European markets. We've seen that happen.
So actually, many companies build their applications around cloud-specific services like AWS IAM, AWS Lambda, such as Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon S3, those technologies. Like when all of those applications become deeply integrated with those services, moving another provider involves more than simply transferring data. We can say significant portions of the applications may need to redesign or rewritten. Actually, the European Union aims to reduce this type of vendor lock-in. We can say that. And if we talk about the article, European Union believes that AWS and Azure systems create excessive customer dependency through data transfer fees and technical barriers as well. So as a result, the EU, European Union, is considering new regulations about related to those systems. Those regulations that will make it easier for organizations to switch cloud providers and promote greater competition in the cloud computing market, as we can say.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out, because I'm not sure it will necessarily create better competition, but we'll have to wait and see. I think we have to wait until Q4 of this year, according to the article, when the findings will be published and AWS and Microsoft have an opportunity to respond. So let's see. Let's see whether it's going to drive real change, or whether it's just going to...
what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Or whether it's just going to reduce cloud provider profits, because they're all going to be paying fines, like John said. We wait with bated breath until Q4 to find out the outcome of this current investigation. But on that note, we have reached the end of our time for Season 5, Episode 24 of Logicast. So just remains me to thank you, John, as always, for braving the UK summer heat to record today's episode. And thank you, Görkem Kastana, for joining us from a part of the world which I'm sure is much hotter than the UK right now, in Istanbul, Turkey. What is the temperature in Istanbul today?
Well, it's quite hot today, and there's really hot weather outside. When I was outside, I'm in a home right now. It's cool, but when I was outside, I was sweating because it's really getting really hot. And greeting to England, the UK from Turkey. I'm really happy.
Relations.
It is.
International relations on the Logicast podcast. As I said, we have reached the end of our time for Season 5, Episode 24. So if you are still listening, thank you very much for joining us. If you've enjoyed it, please give us a like and a follow. We are available to download from wherever you download your podcasts. And if you'd like to see John's new toys, then check us out on the Logicarta YouTube channel. We will be back next week with another episode for you. But until then, thank you very much for listening or watching. And thank you again, Görkem, for joining us all the way from Turkey. We look forward to speaking to you again next time.
Sure, of course. Actually, I want to also be part of the future episodes. I'll be really glad to join you.
We'd love to have you back again.
So can you hear me right now?